Tome of Uselessness. I'm Devon.
I'm Dan.
And today we're doing something a little bit different. Hooray! Different. I have been listening to Shakespeare plays on Audible, and I really like Shakespeare, but I find that people think it's unapproachable and they're not familiar with the plays. So I thought that I would explain one of them to Dan. And you've never seen it or read it or anything, correct?
I don't think so.
I guess I should specify. We're
Right.
talking about Much Ado About Nothing. It's a comedy. Yeah, you've not seen it?
No, and I think, like I said, off air when we were talking about doing this, as I listened to an episode of How Did This Get Made about the Kenneth Branagh version of the play.
Yeah, so I am going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about the Joss Whedon Much Ado About Nothing that came out in like 2012,
Okay, yeah.
because they're very different approaches, and I have problems with both of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm not the most literary guy, but it's also Shakespeare in his time was writing for the populace, right? So it's kind of weird how the stuff is
How
more
elitist it is now, right?
Yes.
And
Is-
I think part of that is the language, because it is weird language. It's not the English we speak now. I think it's also part of it is that people make it unapproachable, on purpose.
Sure, yeah, because obviously you want to be I understand the deeper layers here, and you're yeah, they're talking about relationships, yo.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy Shakespeare. He's very good at writing things. Duh.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you look at the plots closely, you're like, oh, well, I mean, I guess it was a platform for him to write interesting speeches.
Sure. Well, and again, I don't know all the circumstance of his works, but he was a playwright in a playhouse, so sometimes I'm sure he had to bang something out for the next month or whatever, right?
Oh, totally.
He probably had some deadlines on occasion. And he's like, okay, we'll wrap this up with a speech, and it's good to go. A well-written speech.
Especially some of his earlier work. Yeah.
That's fair.
But yeah, today we're going to talk about Much Ado About Nothing. So for some backstory, my mom was in love with the Kenneth Branagh 1993 version of Much Ado About Nothing. So I've seen it 100 times.
Sure.
Also, when I was in high school, I was in the production that our high school put on. I played a tree because I think my drama teacher was just letting me know that I am a bad actor. It was the second year in a row that I got cast as a tree, and then I was like, I am going to stop auditioning for these.
Brutal.
Because in case, if you're unfamiliar with it, Much Ado About Nothing doesn't have talking trees. I was literally a prop / scenery.
Oh, okay. So sorry, yeah, I was oh, maybe there is some sort of tree element, I guess Macbeth or whatever, right? But no, is what you're saying.
No. I was literally the scenery. I also played a rock and a gravestone at one point, so.
Nice.
Not to flex too hard on you. I think that we should. I should start by telling you who the characters are.
Okay.
And then I will take you through the plot. So this is one of Shakespeare's plays where there's two parts in it that everybody wants to play.
Mm.
And it's really funny because you could take them out of the story and the plot wouldn't change that much. They're not main characters, but they're main characters, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll go through it. Here we go. So, it takes place at Leonato's house. He has a daughter named Hero, and she has a cousin named Beatrice. And then there's also the prince Don Pedro, and he's been off at war, and he's got his like right-hand man is Claudio, and Claudio's best friend is Benedict. Also, Don Pedro has a bastard brother named Don John Pedro.
Oh, darn.
And he has his two friends, like his buddies are Braccio and Conrad.
Mm.
The other key player kind of is Dogberry, and he's basically like, okay, he's supposed to be police, but he's more like Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so those are the main people in the story.
So, sorry, real quick. There's basically like 2 female leads and then like 8 male leads?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually pretty typical because you have to think that like in Shakespeare time, women weren't allowed to be on the stage, so female parts were played by men.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly that you just described that.
Sorry, there are other characters. I guess I should mention them. There's a lady's maid named Margaret. She's kind of important to the story. I should have mentioned her.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's Ursula.
Okay.
And that's about it. More or less. There's other characters, but they don't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we open at Leonato's house. Beatrice and Hero find out that the prince, Claudio, and Benedict are coming back from the war. And we also learn that Hero is in love with Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
I should say, I hate Claudio so much.
Okay, yeah.
He's kind of an incel.
Right.
And we also find out that Beatrice hates Benedict.
Right.
Like they just tease each other all the time. The men arrive. We don't find out what Don Pedro did, like the bastard. I'm just gonna call him the bastard and the prince. That's easier.
Sure.
But we do find out that like the bastard isn't well liked.
Not surprising.
Yeah. So Leonato welcomes them to his house, and we find out that Claudio intends to woo Hero, the prince. So there's going to... hang on. So the prince offers to seduce Hero on Claudio's behalf at the masquerade they're having later that night, and then to also broach the subject with her father to make sure that they can get married. And we also find out that Benedict has no intention of marrying and he doesn't like women. Like, not in a gay way, but in a, like, women are garbage way.
Sure.
Or women are only good for one thing way. More like that. We get a scene with Don Pedro, and we don't know why, but he hates Claudio, and he hates Leonato, and so he wants to cook up a plot to make everybody suffer except him.
Well, as you do.
As you do. So he learns that the prince is going to woo Hero on Claudio's behalf, and he makes plans to come in between that.
Sure.
So then it's the party scene, the masquerade, and this is like, I don't know, but I really like this scene. It's really fun. So everybody's in masks, but basically everybody knows who everybody is, but everyone's still pretending to be someone else.
Oh, okay.
So Benedict approaches Beatrice, and pretends to be like this foreign gentleman, and she basically like slammers him so hard. She's like, oh, he's like, sorry. He goes like, oh, Benedict says you're kind of a shrew. And she's like, oh, really? That's hilarious. He's the prince's jester. And after they laugh at him, they beat him with a stick. Because he's so dumb. And he's like, oh, I'm going to tell him you said that. And she's like, you should tell him he said that. He'll be so sad that he won't eat dinner and there'll be extra food for the rest of us. Just like burns. So then, while this is happening, the prince is wooing Hero, and Claudio's kind of watching from afar. And Don Pedro, the bastard and his two lackeys approach him, and they're like, oh, are you Benedict? And Claudio's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, man, can you please talk my brother out of marrying Hero? Because she's not good enough for him. He's a prince and she's not a princess. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he's wooing her. They're going to get married in like 10 minutes, and then they walk away. So then Claudio gets all pissed off. He has what can I talk today? A temper tantrum.
Right.
But eventually it clears up, and they find out that the prince did woo Hero on Claudio's behalf, and everything's kind of settled. They decide to get married in a week.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, in this time, because Beatrice loves the prince, so, like, Hero's kind of just like, okay.
Wait, no, Beatrice doesn't love the prince.
I thought you said in the beginning she did.
Oh, did I?
You said she's in love with somebody, and Hero is like her sister or hanger-on, sorry.
No, sorry, Hero's in love with Claudio.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed up the names then. Hero's our protagonist.
Okay. I might have said it wrong, I don't know.
No, I think I misremembered. I'm sure you said it correctly.
Okay.
So Hero's down with all this. She's like, yes, Claudio, me, cool.
She's like, yeah, aces.
Yeah.
So basically while this is happening, Benedict comes up and the prince is like, hang out with us. And he's like, I do not want to be around that harpy, meaning Beatrice. And he storms away to go have a temper tantrum. And the prince is like, hey, why are you so mean to him? And she's like, well, we were in love at one point and he didn't follow through on marrying me. So we kind of rib each other now. Mm. And the prince is like, well, you wouldn't marry me? And she's like, it's actually a really cute line because she's like, I would have you, but only if I could have another you for working days, basically because he's so high up that she's like, I can't wear you every day, right? Mm-hmm. So he's like, oh, shucks. And then she leaves. And then the prince, Claudio, Hero, and Leonardo start to form a plan to make Beatrice and Benedict fall in love again. Because they think that's a good idea for some reason.
Sure.
So then we go to, the next scene is the next day, and Benedict's out in the gardens, and the prince, Leonardo, and Claudio know he's there, but he hides from them because he doesn't feel like talking to them. And then they stage this big thing that, oh, Hero told us that Beatrice is in love with Benedict, but she won't talk to him because she's worried that he'll scorn her. And they put on a big production. And this is the part of the play where, like, you get a lot of physical comedy because, generally speaking, Benedict's rolling around in the background being, like, terrible at being stealthy but trying to be stealthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm picturing it. It's like, yeah, you can't see me, but he's, like, behind something and falls over.
Yeah, totally. Or doing somersaults or something, right?
Yeah.
So then they leave, and Benedict's like, well, I mean, if I'm gonna be in love, it would be with someone like Beatrice. He instantly changes his mind and decides he's in love with her. And then she goes to call him into dinner, and that's also a funny scene because he's basically trying to impress her and woo her, and she's not in on the scheme yet, so she's still like, it's just seething hatred at him. But then when she's walking back, similar situation, except Hero and Ursula are talking about how Benedict is in love with Beatrice. Right. So again, you get the same kind of like funny physical comedy of Beatrice hiding and listening to them. And then they leave, and then she does a little monologue about instantly falling in love with Benedict. Because you can just change like that.
Sure.
Okay, so then we go into the house, and the prince and Claudio and Benedict are kind of discussing the wedding, and then the bastard comes in. He's like, I need to speak to the prince privately. And Claudio's about to fuck off, and then Claudio decides to stay instead. And the prince says, Hero is cheating on you. She cheats on you all the time. Tomorrow's your wedding. Come with me tonight to her window, and you'll see that she's fucking around on you.
Right, but they weren't like a couple when he was at the war, were they?
So...
Or was that implied that they were like sort of together? Or there was like letters being written, I assume, I guess?
So Claudio has a line earlier on where he says basically, I liked Hero before I went to war, and then when I was ready to fight things, yeah. And then once I had gotten that out of my system and I came back, I realized that I'm in love with her.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's also Shakespeare, so it's not out of character for characters to fall in love in 5 minutes. No,
I'm not against that. I'm just saying that if the buddy's like, well, she was seeing people when you were away, it's like, well, they were a couple or were they not a couple? Right?
Well, sorry, I should specify that, like, it's very important that she's a virgin.
Yeah, but it's like she could go to tea with somebody. That's cool.
No, he's saying like she was fucking around.
Yeah, okay.
I skipped a scene. So before Claudio, the prince, and Leonardo trick Benedict in the garden, there is a scene where Don Pedro describes this plot that he's hatching.
Right.
And basically Borachio has been wooing Margaret, her lady's maid, and sleeping with her. And so he makes plans to fuck around with Margaret in Hero's window.
Right.
And then the bastard brings Prince and Claudio to go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that.
No, that's all right. It's all right. So, yeah, the mistaken identity ploy.
Yeah, because, it's Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the next scene after the bastard convinces Claudio that Hero might be untrue, Dogberry, who is the mall cop, addresses his officers, and this is a very like nothing scene, except that the character of Dogberry is like just he's there for comedy, but he's basically like written as a person who thinks that they're much more intelligent than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And so he uses words incorrectly. He makes weird jumps in logic. Like, he's like, when he's talking to his officers, he's like, oh, if you see a drunk in the street, or if you see someone drinking in the street, you have to arrest them. And they said, well, what if they're drunk? And he's like, then you have to wait till they're sober and then arrest them.
Perfectly logical.
Yeah, totally. And in Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing, it's played by, Dogberry's played by Michael Keaton.
Oh, really?
And he plays him kind of like Beetlejuice.
Nice.
And in Joss Whedon's version. He's played by Nathan Fillion.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very good. Anyway, so Dogberry gives his officers their duties for the night, and then he leaves, and then the officers overhear Baraccio bragging to Conrad that he got paid $1,000 to fuck Margaret in Hero's window so that Claudio thinks that Hero cheated on him. So they arrest him for treachery.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It's not specifically, the scene where Claudio witnesses that isn't specifically like written,
Right.
but in a lot of movie adaptations they show that scene. I think partially because they don't want the audience to get too lost.
Yeah, just because like then it would follow like A to B kind of thing as to why they're doing the arrest and stuff.
Yeah. So then the next scene is Hero getting ready for the wedding. Dogberry tries to tell Leonardo what's going on, but because he's kind of like an idiot, he's not getting the point across. And all that he manages to tell Leonardo is that he has 2 people in custody. So Leonardo says, oh, get the friar to take a statement, go down and interrogate them, and then let me know what's going on. It's my daughter's wedding. I gotta fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
So the next scene is the wedding. And Claudio shows up like everything's normal. And then when they start doing their vows, he just is a huge dick. And accuses Hero of being disloyal and makes a huge fucking scene. And Hero ends up fainting. And he leaves with the prince.
Right. Sorry, just to pause then. So before the arrest, did he go and witness the mistaken identity stuff, or did that not happen?
Yeah.
Because
So
of the arrest?
right before the arrest happens, that's when he witnesses everything. But like I was saying, it happens off screen.
Sure. Sorry, I was just wondering. Yeah, was like the plot foiled? But you're saying the plot was not foiled.
The plot was not foiled.
Okay. So then, yeah, he berates her on the altar instead of behind the scenes and being like, "Hey, it's off."
Yeah, no, he's a total fucking dick, and
Yeah.
he wants her to die of shame, and she faints, and they leave. And then her dad is kind of a dick, and he's like,
"Way to go, daughter."
well, no, he's kind of like, you better be dead or I'll kill you. Luckily, the friar who is going to marry them is not a dick, and he's like, listen, I've seen the way she looks at him. I've seen how they interact. She is still a virgin. She wouldn't be acting like, she wouldn't be blushing all the time if she wasn't, because, you know, whatever.
Logic.
Also, Beatrice reveals that, like, every night except for last night, she's shared a room with Hero, and she's never seen Hero fuck around.
Right.
So they form a plan that Friar suggests that they pretend that Hero is dead, and that they get Claudio to hang an epitaph on her tomb. And if he's really ever been in love with her, he'll regret calling her out on their wedding day like a massive dick. And he'll come to his senses and he'll want forgiveness. And at that time, Leonardo should say that his brother has a daughter that looks just like Hero and make him promise to marry Hero's cousin as a way to make up for killing Hero. This cousin doesn't exist.
Right.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah. It's Hero as cousin,
Yes,
I imagine.
So that's a great plan. So then they leave, and it's just Beatrice and Benedict left. And Beatrice is heartbroken. So Benedict thinks this is the appropriate time to declare his love to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she reciprocates. And then he says, is there anything I can do to make you feel better? And she says, kill Claudio.
Whoa, nice.
And he's like, I can't kill Claudio. He's my best friend. And she's like, well, then you're fucking lying about loving me because you're killing me by not killing him. And so he's like, okay, I'll kill Claudio.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so in the next scene, we get Dogberry interrogating Conrad and Braccio. The friar is there to record things, and the friar reveals that that Hero has died, and Braccio feels so bad that he confesses to everything.
Right.
Conrad does not feel bad, and he calls Dogberry an ass. And this is after the friar left, and Dogberry makes a big show of being like, everybody remember that I am an ass. It's not written down, but I am an ass. That is not important to the story, but it is kind of funny. After that, Leonardo and his brother, whatever, run into the prince and Claudio, and they're like, you killed my daughter. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're a piece of shit. And Claudio and the prince are kind of dicks about it. They're like, not our fault. She's a slut. So the Leonardo and his brother kind of like huff off angry. And then Benedict shows up and he challenges Claudio to a duel. And he's like, you're an asshole and I'm going to fucking kill you in a duel. And then he says, like, he informs the prince that the bastard has fled. He's gone out of the country. And then he leaves. And then the prince and Claudio see that the bastard's henchmen, Braccio and Conrad, are in chains and Dogberry's leading them somewhere.
Right.
And that's when they learn from, like, Braccio that the whole thing was an elaborate ruse.
Right, so they learn about the plot.
They learn the plot. Claudio is very upset. Obviously.
Sure.
Leonardo and his brother show up, and that's when they're like, go to her grave tonight, hang an epitaph, sing a song of sadness or whatever, and then come to my house tomorrow to marry my brother's daughter. She's the only heir I have, and you should bestow on her what you owed to my daughter.
But what about the duel?
Well, we haven't had it yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought so. There was like the challenge was laid. I thought it was like it should have happened already. Sorry.
No, he's like, fight me later.
Okay.
So the next scene is the funeral, and it's very boring. He hangs an epitaph on her grave, and he sings a stupid song. The next scene is the next day. Benedict informs Beatrice that he's challenged Claudio to a duel. They declare their love for each other, and then they find out that from Ursula, she just runs in the scene. She's like, "Hey guys." They find out that the bastard ran away, and that Braccio and Conrad confessed, and that everything is okay now, and that Claudio is duped.
Right, and do they know that Hero's alive?
Yeah, they're in on it. They know that Hero's alive.
But then why would she make him challenge Buddy to a duel?
Because she's very mad at Claudio for being a dick.
I mean, that's fair, but it's... Yeah, sorry, I was under the impression the whole time that Beatrice thought Hero was dead.
No, Beatrice is there. She just thinks that Claudio's a dick.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, so she is unaware, though, of the second plot to try to get the marriage to still happen.
No, she knows about it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
She just doesn't like Claudio, and I don't blame her. He like two-hand shoves her.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I'm curious to see where this goes. I was like, wait, is she in on this plot or not?
She is in on the plot. So then the next scene is the wedding.
Right.
So Claudio shows up and he's like, there's three women. It's Ursula, Hero, and Beatrice, and they all have veils over their face, so you can't see their face. And he's like, hello, I'm here, and I'm going to marry your brother's daughter. And he's like, can I see your face? And he's like, and Leonardo says, nope, not till you marry her in front of this priest. So they get married, and then she takes off her veil and reveals that she's actually Hero, and he's like, holy shit, you look just like Hero.
Nice.
And she's like, I am, or she says, like, basically that Hero died so that she could live, and she is a virgin.
Right.
And he's happy. He's very happy, and he's excited. And then Benedict declares his feelings for Beatrice and says they should also get married. Well, first they do a little thing where they pretend they don't like each other, and then Claudio gives Beatrice Benedict's sonnets that he's written to her, and Hero gives Benedict Beatrice's whatever sonnets that she's written about him.
Right.
So they have a little moment. It's cute. It's funny. But then they're like, okay. They decide to get married too. And then they all get married, except for the prince. But we do find out that the bastard was apprehended and will go to jail. That's it. That's the end of the play.
But what about the duel?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so Benedict says, I'm not going to duel you anymore because now you're my cousin by marriage.
Right.
That's it.
But then Beatrice is okay with that? She's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, when she finds out that Conrad and Braccio tricked Claudio, I guess she's like, oh yeah, that's cool then.
Okay.
I maybe she was under the impression that Claudio was making everything up. I don't know. But yeah, that is the play.
Nice.
So the roles of Beatrice and Benedict are the ones that people usually want to play.
Okay.
They're the most interesting ones. They have all the best lines. You know, they have those funny like garden scenes. But really, if you cut them out of the play, the story's still kind of the same.
Sure.
So, do you have any questions about it?
Yeah, well, I got a couple kind of like out of play questions. Like, when in his career was this written?
That's a good question.
Or yeah, if you knew or not. But I was also going to say, like, how does this one rank amongst his other stuff? Is this one considered like some of his top tier, mid tier, like to you or to like other people?
Much Ado About Nothing is one that people know him for.
Right.
I feel like it was one of his earlier comedies, but I'm not entirely sure.
No, that's fair. I was just kind of curious because, like, obviously different sensibilities in time and stuff like that, but it's just like, yeah, Hero is okay to go through with this plot to marry the guy after he insulted her and everything. And it's like, wouldn't you be like, no, guy, I'll find somebody else or something now? Like, you're clearly a jerk.
Okay, it was written in like the middle of his career.
Okay.
So it was written before As You Like It, which is another really famous Shakespeare play, but after Midsummer's Night Dream.
Right.
Like, I think it's one of his more famous plays. Like, there's 2 film adaptations of it that have been done in the past 30 years.
Sure. And it's non-Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, there's no teen comedy that's based off of it, and I think it's because it's so heavily featured about like Hero's virginity.
Right.
Because like 10 Things I Hate About You is based on Taming of the Shrew.
Mm-hmm.
She's the Man is based on the one with Viola. Is it a comedy of errors? It might be. I don't know.
I am also unsure, sorry.
So, like, yeah, there's no teen drama, like, no teen comedy based off of it. I think it's one of his more famous ones. It's not, like, I like Beatrice a lot. I don't really care for anybody else in the play.
Oh, really?
Like, personally, I like that because Beatrice has some of the most, she's probably the best rounded character. And she's got really, like, funny, quippy, like, zingers. But
Right.
She's also capable of, like, some good self-reflection. Like, there's a part where the prince is like, oh, it's like a happy day when you were born. And she's like, no, my mother cried. But I was born, there was a star and I was born under that kind of thing, right? So
Sure.
yeah, I like Beatrice quite a bit, but overall, like I really don't like Claudio, and I find it hard to watch most people's portrayal of Benedict because it seems like a very showy off role.
Okay, yeah.
Like they're just it feels like yeah, like so in the 1993 Much Ado About Nothing, Kenneth Branagh's crap. He plays Benedict.
Right.
And when you watch it, or at least when I watch it, Emma Thompson, who was his wife at the time, plays Beatrice.
Yeah.
And when she says her lines, it sounds like a person talking. And when Kenneth Branagh says his lines, it sounds like a Shakespearean actor being a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah, like he's like on stage and you're like, you're in a movie right now, guy.
Yeah, like, dude, you're in a movie. Yeah. Like it feels like the way he plays Benedict makes me think that when he like introduces himself to people, he's like, I'm a thespian.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but what's the name of the Kate that is in Underworld?
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale's in it as Hero, and she's like 18. She's so young in it.
Yeah.
Her face is almost unrecognizable as Kate Beckinsale.
Just because it like, hasn't grown out or whatever, or is it just like super smooth?
No, I think it's just like it's like the kind of like childish roundness.
Yeah, it just hasn't like grown out.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves plays the bastard.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's so many strange choices in the 1993 Much Ado, because there's like a part where it's a shot of him walking down the hallway. I guess they're trying to show that he's running away.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always sneering, like he always has like a sneer on his face. And when he gets to the end of the hallway, he does like an in-air fist pump. And I'm like, why? It also that 1993 movie, Kenneth Branagh cuts lots of scenes and lots of people's lines, and he rewrites some of Benedict's lines to be more clever.
Well, sure.
Because that's who he's playing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to me that they're cutting scenes, because he also adds like no lie, like several minute long scenes of like minstrels playing instruments. Or
to build the whimsy.
To build the whimsy. Or like at the beginning in the opening credits, there's like easily like, 3 to 5 minute bath scene where all the girls are having a bath together and all the soldiers are bathing in the fountains, and there's lots of bums. But it does nothing for the plot.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I gotta keep this under 2 hours, so I'm gonna cut these scenes, but I'm gonna add in this because this is important. Bums are important. People need to see me without my shirt on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like him. He bugs me. And he wrote the screenplay and produced and directed and starred in it, and I think he did it because he wanted to be Benedict.
Sure, of course. I mean, why not? Like if you want to do that and you're in that position, you would do that, right? Like.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Oh, you know who else is in it? You watched House, right?
No, but I'm aware of the show.
Oh, you know how House has his other buddy doctor who's like a cancer doctor?
No, but I believe you that there would be more doctors than just House.
Well, yeah, so there's like a cancer doctor man, and he's kind of he's like a soft, pudgy dude, and he plays Claudio, but like younger. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I also watched the 2012 Much Ado About Nothing with Joss Whedon did. And once again...
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say like that's recent-ish, and like I have zero knowledge of this movie.
It was very like indie.
Okay.
I don't think it had a theatrical release.
Oh,
It
okay.
was briefly on Netflix in like 2013 or 14, but it's very much like I have mixed feelings because I feel like it's a vanity project once again.
Hmm.
It's shot in black and white.
Oh.
It takes place in modern times, but they still speak Shakespearean, which I don't mind. I know some people that really bothers them, like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
Hmm.
But this is like much more laid back than that. So it's black and white. It takes place at like a Southern California mansion. It feels very pretentious to me. Like it feels like Joss Whedon was like, I'm gonna make some fucking art.
Yeah, basically after like he's like, I've done some Marvel stuff, let's make some art.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do feel like it's a bit like, oh my God, can you just fucking stop? But at the same time, they do like he did cast it really well, and I feel like all the actors have they understood the play,
Yeah.
which sometimes you get people reading Shakespeare and you're like, I don't know if you understand the words that you're saying. And once again, I was a tree, so I know. But I thought it was very good performances, and it does a good job of showing that Benedict and Beatrice had a previous relationship. They just haven't hated each other their whole life.
Yeah.
Because it opens with Benedict and Beatrice in bed together, and Benedict sneaks out before he thinks Beatrice is awake. Like they had a one night stand.
Mm.
But yeah, I do think overall it was cast well. There's some really interesting shots, like when the bastard approaches Claudio to convince him that the prince is wooing Hero for himself,
Yeah.
it's like set at like sunrise almost because they've been partying all night, and Claudio's in the pool with like a mask and a scuba stick on, and he's drinking, and
Mm.
they just come out of the pool behind him. Like their heads just pop up out of the water.
Yeah, yeah.
So like that's kind of an interesting shot. And like when Beatrice is overhearing Hero and Ursula talk, she's kind of like hiding in the kitchen. But when she first hears them, she falls down the stairs, and it's some pretty good like physical comedy where it looks like she's actually fallen down the stairs.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I forgot to say in the 1993 Much Ado, the prince was played by Denzel Washington,
Nice.
which makes it even funnier when he's like wooing Hero pretending to be Claudio because Claudio's white and he's black.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, no one's gonna know. In the 2012 one, it's a lot of like cast that Joss Whedon had worked with before. Beatrice is played by, she was an actress in Angel in the like last season. I can't remember her name, but she's from that. She's great.
Sure.
Benedict is played by, in Buffy at one point, they get a replacement Giles, and so that's who's playing Benedict. The bastard is played by Simon from Firefly.
Okay. Yeah.
What else is in it? Oh, what's the name of the agent in the first Avengers movie who dies?
Oh, Coulson.
Coulson plays Leonardo. And yeah, Nathan Fillion plays Dogberry. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it does a good job of interpreting the play.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got a cool feel to it. But I also strongly feel like Joss Whedon was trying to make art with a capital A. And that just kind of bugs me.
Fair enough. But it sounds like it's a little more truer sort of to the material versus the Branagh version.
Yeah, I would say so. Also, it doesn't have Kenneth Branagh in it, so I like it better.
Well, and it's just interesting that like you're saying like there's been these two versions in more recent times, but like has there been dozens of versions of this? You know, like a Romeo and Juliet or a Hamlet or Macbeth or whatever, right? Like there's just so many versions of those.
I think probably like it was kind of popular when talkies came out to like make Shakespeare as movies.
Sure.
So I know there's like a 1939 version that I didn't watch because I just for the most part movies from 1939 don't interest me.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a niche interest for sure.
There's probably like a BBC version because
Yeah.
they just do all of it. The one that I was listening to while I on Audible was the BBC radio play version that had David Tennant as Benedict.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Cool.
I give him props. But yeah. I mean, there's probably more versions. It's a play that like high schools do and theater groups do all the time.
Right.
But yeah, that's it. That's the play. Are you after my very good description, or do you think you'd ever try to watch one of those movies?
I don't know, because it's like it sounds like the movies aren't as good as like the play.
Honestly, like between the radio play, the 1993, and Joss Whedon's, I would be more likely to listen to the radio play again.
That's what I was gonna say. It sounds like the radio play was the better version.
I think it's hard to do Shakespeare because a lot of you can either go two routes. You can go, I'm gonna do this as close to like this Shakespearean play is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Kenneth Branagh how he did it, right? Because he does it in like Italy and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
The other direction you can go is like, I'm going to do Shakespeare plus something, which is kind of what Joss Whedon did. So he did, I want to do Shakespeare but modern.
Yeah.
I think that there's pitfalls in both those approaches because, especially with like Shakespeare plus something, because it can get very overwhelming and start to detract from the play.
Yeah, or just not mesh well.
Yeah, totally. Like I saw a version, for example, of Midsummer's Night Dream, but it was Midsummer's Night Dream plus Grease.
Right.
So they were all in like, poodle skirts and I don't know, leather jackets and stuff, but it really, really didn't work for me at all. It became very distracting, and they were trying to make, they were trying to like reproduce Grease characters, but like as Midsummer Night Dream, like in mid and So I feel like, but even with like when you're trying to do Shakespeare as close to Shakespeare as you can,
mm-hmm.
You can get caught up in those details of like, what do the costumes look like? What does this look like? And I feel like too much energy goes to just not making Shakespeare good.
Well, and I was gonna say as well, of course, the language is a big factor of just like how much do you change so it could be more understandable to a modern audience versus how much do you leave it as it is because it's as written, right?
Totally, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't because like if you change it, then the purists are gonna be mad. If you don't change it, then you're not gonna have a lot of people coming to see your movie.
Yeah, exactly. Because people will be like, I didn't understand half of what they said.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know. I feel like when you have actors who really understand what the play's about and the language and their lines, they do a better job than people who don't know what they're saying.
Right.
But then you also can fall into the trap of like, I'm gonna mime out what I'm doing as I'm saying it so that people understand, and then you end up with like very silly performances. Yeah, I don't know. I like talking about Shakespeare and I like listening to Shakespeare and I like watching different versions, but overall I'm kind of lukewarm on the play. I really like Beatrice. She has a lot of agency and intelligence and an interesting backstory. Hero might as well be a prop.
Right.
Claudio's a dick. Benedict's also kind of a dick. But I don't know. I enjoy it for watching Beatrice and Benedict talk to each other, I guess. But it's not my favorite Shakespeare play, for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is interesting because I haven't really watched or spoken about a Shakespeare thing in a while, and obviously, like I was saying earlier, it's like he wrote the stuff back in the day for the people, and they were wildly successful to the point that we're still talking about them hundreds of years later.
Yeah. He also, most of his plays are based on other things, right? So, he wrote in Benedict and Beatrice, but, the hero Claudio, I think, is based off an old myth or something.
Sure.
As You Like It is based off an Italian novel called Rosalind. Midsummer's Night Dream is based off, myths kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite, not my least favorite. It is, the title is very good at describing what the play is, because it is a lot of fanfare for, nothing. The whole plot could have been avoided if, I don't know, Claudio didn't be a dick.
Sure, yeah, I would say I think my interpretation of that is he goes and speaks to her before the wedding about it, and then she's like, no, that wasn't me, or I wasn't even there, and then they're like, oh wait, maybe something's going on.
Yeah,
not just
if
on the altar rejection.
If when he was at the window, if he had taken 3 steps closer so he could tell that it wasn't Hero.
Oh really? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they're across the street, and it's that's clearly a dark-haired woman, it's her.
Yeah, totally. That is totally what happens.
Never mind that people can wear disguises.
Yeah, no. Never mind that Margaret, her lady's maid, has the same hair color.
Definitely her, 100%.
100% her. It's her room. Who else would it fucking be?
Yeah. That was forensics back then, right?
Yeah, totally. Oh, she also wears her dress, so maybe that's part of it.
Sure, but yeah, she clearly couldn't have accessed it any other way.
No, that totally Hero. I guess we'll wrap up unless you have any other questions about Much Ado About Nothing, Much Ado About Stuffing, if it's Thanksgiving.
I don't think so. I think I kind of asked as we went along, and I enjoyed your description of it. And like I said, I was very curious because I didn't know where the story was going, that I'm like, wait, what is actually going to happen with these characters? Because they're, as per usual in comedies of that nature, they're acting in a outlandish way.
Yeah, they're all fucking idiots.
Yeah. But that's the fun of it.
That's cool. I like talking about Shakespeare, so I wouldn't mind doing more episodes like this in the future if you're open to it.
Sure, yeah.
And the people listening, if you would like some more Shakespeare talk, Shakespeare Corner, please let us know by email, tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. You can also email to say, Devon, you're wrong about everything. You've misinterpreted the play, and never talk about Shakespeare again. Both opinions are valid. So thank you for listening. Find us on Instagram, Tome of Uselessness, website, tomeofuselessness.com. That's all I got.
Stay safe, and thanks for listening.